Insurance fraud in the UK has hit epidemic levels. It's costing us around £2 billion every year. That's almost £6 million a day. Deliberate crashes, bogus personal injuries, even phantom pets. The fraudsters are risking more and more to make a quick killing. And every year it's adding over £50 to your insurance bill. But insurers are fighting back, exposing around 14 fake claims every hour. Armed with covert surveillance systems,
subject out the vehicle,
sophisticated data analysis techniques, and a number of highly skilled police units. They're catching the criminals red-handed.
Just don't lie to us.
All those con men, scammers, and cheats on the fiddle are now caught in the act and claimed and shamed. Coming up, a firefighter feels the burn as his car is torched in an insurance scam.
The fire service had been called out on what became apparent was a hoax call.
One insurance claimer calls in an incredible tale.
This rat apparently had dragged a phone out into the street to presumably make a phone call.
And IFED go on the hunt for a potential crash for cash gang.
Oi, open the door now.
Firefighters risk their lives on a daily basis in order to protect us. They bravely put other people's safety before their own. It's a high-risk, high-pressure and highly respected role. One such hero was highly decorated Anthony Murray, who worked for the Lancashire Fire Service.
Mr Murray has received two what we call Chief Fire Officers commendations. This is for action he's taken at incidents that are particularly important or dangerous.
In 2009, Anthony Murray saved the life of a 77-year-old woman when he pulled her from a burning building. But 3 years later, Mr Murray was the victim of the cruelest irony, when his car was torched while he was out on a 999 call.
The incident actually took place in the early hours of the morning of the 5th of October of 2012. A car was torched in the car park at Skelmersdale Fire Station, and at the time the fire service had been called out on what became apparent was a hoax call. Murray was on duty as a fire officer at the time of the fire happening.
The police started to investigate who was responsible for the fake call.
The police investigation quickly revealed that the hoax call had been made by a gentleman called Gareth Collier, who was connected to Anthony Murray by virtue of them both having been employed as doormen at various licensed premises in Wigan.
The police then checked Collier's phone and made a surprising discovery.
The police looked into the telephone contact between Murray and Collier, and it very quickly became apparent that this was a planned offence that they had spoken about by text message on a number of occasions in the weeks leading up to the fire. There were text messages to show that Mr Murray had told Mr Collier exactly what to say in the hoax call, in that he'd told him to say that there was a road traffic collision at an area which is the furthest area that Skelmersdale Fire Station cover, knowing that that would have sent both fire engines, one of which contained Mr Murray, to the furthest point of the area that fire station covers, thus making the coast clear for the fire to be set in the fire station car park.
With Murray now firmly in the frame, he came up with his own version of events.
He believed that someone had a grudge against him and Mr Collier as they were suspected to have assaulted someone during the course of their work as doormen.
The police then received a series of threatening letters, which suggested that someone else was responsible for the arson attack.
Letters were received by various people which purported to establish that somebody had a grudge against Mr Murray.
But there were clues in the letters that would spell the end for Murray.
Those letters were recovered by the police, and a number of them were assessed by a handwriting expert. That expert was able to compare the letters from this case with documents written previously by Mr Murray. It showed that those documents shared similar spelling mistakes and handwriting style.
The plot thickened when forensic evidence implicated Murray's mate, Gareth Collier.
Mr. Collier's DNA was found on a cigarette lighter that was recovered next to the burnt vehicle, and he also went into the hospital the next day with quite a significant burn to his hand.
Gareth Collier had literally got his fingers burnt by the crime, but the stakes were high. After all, Murray's claim was worth tens of thousands of pounds.
Mr. Murray purchased the vehicle in June 2011 for £47,400, and within the space of a year it had depreciated in value by half. He had taken out normal car insurance and also gap insurance, which is to make up the difference between the market value at that point and the original price of the vehicle. So in the immediate aftermath of the car having been burnt out, he claimed on both of those insurance policies.
Murray was in so much debt that he thought torching his car was the only way out. He offered Collier £1,000 for his part in the botched burnout.
Whilst there was clearly a degree of planning to this offence, I certainly wouldn't describe either of the men as criminal masterminds. The police did a very good job investigating this case, but the evidence was certainly there for them to find.
Along with his own car, the fire had burnt 2 other station vehicles to the tune of more than £20,000. Murray had wanted to get minted, but what he got was a court summons instead.
The result was that Mr. Murray pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit arson, 2 counts of fraud, 1 in respect of each of the 2 insurance policies, and perverting the course of justice. He received a total sentence of 60 months imprisonment.
Murray's plans to get rich quick turned to ash.
Mr. Murray received a lengthy custodial sentence, which, in my opinion, reflected the seriousness of the offence, the amount of money concerned, the fact that in the aftermath of the offence he made positive steps to try and deflect the police investigation away from him. In addition to that, I think the most serious aggravating feature to this offence is that Mr. Murray used his knowledge gained as a firefighter to assist in the commission of this offence, and that will have been taken very seriously.
The twisted fire starter's ruse was finally snuffed out, and he was unceremoniously locked up. Worse still, he had soured the good name of the Lancashire Fire Service.
This could have actually damaged our reputation quite badly, but I think people are sensible enough to realise this was a rogue activity by an individual. As an experienced firefighter, he fully knows the potential effects of fire. We are grateful that in this particular instance nobody was actually physically harmed. In Lancashire and elsewhere in the country, hoax calls and arson attempts have resulted in fatalities and serious injury. I'm appalled at the actions of Anthony Murray. I think as a fire service we feel betrayed by his actions.
Still to come, criminals who claim, how insurance scammers work from behind bars.
One of the witnesses had actually seen Kirbishley fall over quite dramatically in a very controlled manner.
And IFED call in for some backup.
Yeah, we're going to need method of entry because there's no way we can get through here.
Where would we be without our mobile phone? Today's smartphones aren't just a way of making a quick call. They're an online, emailing, music playing, texting, diary planning device. And that's just the basic models. So imagine how upset you are when you lose it. Thankfully, there are people like Andy Morris at Assurance Solutions on hand to insure us against such eventualities. And this keeps Andy pretty busy.
We have 11 million customers, so we're sort of processing about 3 or 4 claims a minute. So if you think about the opportunity for fraudsters to try it on, it's quite significant. Nothing really amazes me about the creativity of the fraudsters.
But there was one claim in particular that had a pretty long tale to tell.
We had one customer who telephoned the call centre to register a loss of their very expensive mobile phone.
I believe you're calling up with regards to a lost Samsung Galaxy Ace in black.
Yes.
Okay.
At this point in the story, we enter Fantasyland. What the caller alleges next would have made Beatrix Potter proud.
customer claimed that they'd gone to bed and had put the phone on charge.
Well, what we've got a rolling infestation of rats. Okay. And basically they've eaten through quite a lot of stuff. And the phone is basically gone. They'll probably dragged it down, probably one of the holes.
Am I the only one who can smell a rat here? Nope, didn't think so.
Our agents and our fraud team were obviously triggered at that point and sort of proceeded to ask more questions to the customer.
A member of Andy's security and investigation team called back to sniff out the truth.
The claim's been passed up to our department for further investigations to be carried out. Okay, and for me to be able to complete those investigations, I need to go into the claim in a bit more detail with you, make sure I've got all the correct information, and I also have a few questions in regards to the claim.
Why?
Okay, so...
I've been infested with rodents.
The consumer actually becomes quite angry. Why are we asking questions? Why can't a rat run off with the phone? And that we're a silly organisation actually making it difficult for them to pursue their claim.
Basically, from what I can gather, I had it on charge. We've had an infestation of rats, and obviously they've eaten through the skirting board, right? It will have dragged, you could have dragged the phone outside.
I find that very hard to believe.
The customer continued to stick to their story, and this rat apparently had dragged the phone out into the street, presumably play games on the phone or make a phone call.
Why do you find it hard to believe?
Because I find it very hard to believe that a rat has taken the phone from your desk.
They're very good at what they do.
They're very good at what they do?
Yes. Is no one going to believe me or what?
Rats may be clever creatures, but Andy's team were not going to be trapped.
We looked at the data records, and to our amazing surprise, the telephone was being used the next day.
Did anybody else have access to the handset?
No.
The reason I'm asking...
Why?
The usage of the handset that I'm looking at in front of me shows that that handset was used on the day that you called us.
Fortunately, the caller had a perfectly rational explanation.
The way the rat is obviously seeing the entry point of getting out is into the street.
So your phone has been on charge on your desk. A rat has come and dragged your phone through your skirting board. It's then taken the phone outside and somebody's picked it up to use it.
Well, it could do.
Each phone has a unique identification code, and that's called in the industry the IMEI number. What that allows us to do is to effectively track when and where calls are made on that phone.
Using data analysis and interview techniques, Andy's team were able to catch this rat.
Our agents are trained using police interview technique, which is an approved process to prove beyond reasonable doubt that the phone was being used and this individual was probably making up a ratty tale.
The insurance company had given the customer plenty of opportunity to tell the truth. But when backed into a corner, he withdrew his claim and was blacklisted.
Whilst this is an amusing story, there is a really dark side to this. It costs the industry billions of pounds a year with fraud. And like they say, you're never more than 2 or 3 feet away from a rat. You're never more than 2 or 3 calls away from a potential fraudster.
In January 2012, the City of London Police joined the fight against insurance fraud by forming an elite squad known as IFED, the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department.
I would say to anyone who's considering committing insurance fraud that now this is no longer a crime without consequence that it may have been in the past. There is a dedicated 40-strong unit known as IFED that work 24/7 hunting down insurance fraudsters.
They've made over 550 arrests and have saved millions of pounds in fraudulent insurance claims, money which ultimately goes back in our pockets. From now on, fraudsters need to watch their backs.
So if you're thinking about it, I suggest think again. There's every chance you'll get an IFED detective come knocking on your front door.
It's early morning, and IFED are on a mission to crack a suspected crash for cash gang. DS Marcus Allen and DC Patrick Einsman lead one team, while DC Kate Sibley heads the other.
The people we are after today is sort of higher up the chain, if you like. The crash for cashes, they're employing people to do the crash for cashes, but they're the ones that are the people we're looking for today are the ones that are organising it. So this is one of a number of addresses that is being visited this morning by officers from IFED.
On the other side of town, DS Marcus Allen's team are on their way to a different location.
We'll go to the address, first of all we'll knock at the door to try and get in. If we can't get in, we've got uniformed colleagues who can force entry. Right, shall we go?
Marcus and his team park around the corner so as not to draw any attention. An upstairs window is open, so someone may be home. But so far, there's no sign of life. Marcus and his team are eager to gain entry so they can begin their investigations. Tired of waiting, Marcus instructs his police colleagues to get the rapid entry equipment.
Yeah, go on, go.
But suddenly, someone appears at the upstairs window.
Now, open the door now.
Finally, the suspect opens the door.
Good morning. Hello, I'm Marcus Allen. I'm from the City of London Police, the Insurance Fraud Investigation Department. OK, we've got a warrant to search this address, so come inside. OK, is there somewhere where we can sit down and talk? Thank you.
My name's Detective Constable Patrick Einsman. I'm arresting you on suspicion of conspiracy to defraud and money laundering. You don't have to say anything.
IFED waste no time, and it's not long before the suspect has read his rights. Marcus and the team are now able to conduct their search of the house.
Where do you keep your paperwork, your main paperwork? Here? OK, well, we'll start there. Also, computers. Do we have computers in the house? That is your computer. OK.
Meanwhile, DC Kate Sibley arrives at her destination. Kate is accompanied by the rapid entry team, a group of police officers equipped for knocking down doors. The occupants are thought to be involved in the alleged crash for cash scam.
Can you open the door, please? Good morning. City London Police. And you are?
Kate soon establishes that the men she is on the hunt for are not in the house, and they have sublet it to an innocent, if rather bemused, tenant.
Have you got any identification on you? Have you got a passport or anything, or driving licence? You do. Could I see it, please? Right, don't come through and I'll explain why we're here.
As the flat is owned by the suspects, Kate still needs to search the premises.
We have a warrant to search these premises, OK? So I am going to have a look round.
After a brief search that reveals nothing relevant, Kate moves on to a second address that may be associated with the suspects.
Okay. Thank you. Unfortunately, the two suspects we were looking for don't live there anymore, despite all the checks showing that they did. So we're now moving on to one of the other addresses that's currently being searched to give them assistance. And hopefully we'll catch up with the two suspects we're after later on today.
Meanwhile, back at Marcus's raid, there has been a development.
Open the doors, I'm going to break the door. No, open the door now. Wait, open the door now.
Police discover two men in an outbuilding.
Is there anybody else in this premises?
And now they must establish who they are, what their legal status is, and whether they're suspects and need to be arrested. Back in the main house, Marcus is thumbing through potential evidence.
We've got into the address, we've identified our suspect, he's been arrested. We're now searching the address for evidence in relation to the offences. There's a lot of paperwork, a lot of correspondence to do with motor vehicles. So what we need to do now is establish what's relevant and what's not. We've got our uniformed colleagues for backup, so I'm quite happy with how it's gone so far.
Coming up, Kate's team gets serious. And Patrick discovers an unusual filing system containing potential evidence.
He's quickly thrown away all the DVLA unregistered for all the vehicles.
Is that all in the bin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some fraudulent insurance claims come from the strangest of places.
Manchester Prison is a Victorian prison. It was built in 1868 and opened as a high security prison in 1994, and we currently look after in excess of 1,300 men.
Incredibly though, some criminals are trying to claim from the state by creating fake injuries, which inmates like Andrew Kirbishley hope will pay out while they're still behind bars.
Mr. Kirbishley was serving time for a violent assault. He claimed that during the course of an industrial cleaning lesson that he was using the buffer and he tripped over the damaged flooring.
Accidents happen, and this was nothing out of the ordinary. But crafty Kirbishley was hell-bent on making a meal of it.
Kirbishley claimed that he'd severely injured his knee to the point where he wasn't able to walk.
While Kirbishley claimed to be injured, he still had his wits about him and had the psychic ability to predict his accident. Kirbishley had spotted the damaged floor days before and told the prison course leader about the imminent danger.
He actually informed us that Mr. Kirbishley had mentioned the damaged flooring before the course took place. He'd smiled and said, somebody's going to have an accident on this during the course of the day.
And curiously enough, his prediction came true.
He was then seen by the City College instructor to pretend to fall over the damaged flooring and lower himself to the ground in a controlled manner. He then looked up at the City College instructor and smirked.
Kirbishley's prediction, and pretty poor acting, was where he really slipped up, as Chris Hadfield from Greater Manchester Police soon discovered.
One of the witnesses had actually seen Kirbishley fall over quite dramatically in a very controlled manner. And by that, he said that Kirbishley had fallen over with his arms outstretched, falling to the floor with his knee bent. That's not the actions of somebody who had tripped over.
Undeterred by witness accounts, Kirbishley appointed a solicitor who wrote to the prison authorities, claiming their client had suffered significant pain and discomfort at the left knee, and was suffering with a constant dull ache with bouts of intermittent sharp shooting and throbbing pains to the back of the knee.
The solicitor's letter had said that he was unable to attend the gym, so we asked the wing staff to monitor Mr. Kirbishley's movements.
It didn't take long to find out that crafty Kirbishley was continuing his deception.
The wing staff were able to monitor Mr. Kirbishley and relayed back to us that he was attending the gym on a regular basis and he was in fact lifting quite heavy weights. The amount of weight that he was lifting, he would be unable to do this with that knee injury.
The team had now gathered enough evidence to expose the fake claim and go after the crooked claimer. This resulted in Kirbishley's sentence being extended by an additional month. But that wasn't all.
Mr. Kirbishley was due to have a parole board review hearing where he was hoping to have his category lowered, which would mean that he could move to a lower category jail.
He thought it would be his get-out-of-jail-free card, but Kirbishley really tripped up when he thought he could get the taxpayer to pay for his lies.
The fact that Mr. Kirbishley was charged with another offence during his sentence meant that his progression to another establishment was halted at that point.
Kirbishley remains a caged bird in Manchester's high-security prison. And if he or any other inmate fancies making a quick buck from false claims, the governor has some words of warning.
The message is that this sort of action by offenders will not be tolerated, and we'll use all measures, working with Greater Manchester Police, our specialists, litigation teams, to stamp down on it. And the message is that it won't be tolerated and people will be brought to justice.
Two IFED teams are on the hunt for a suspected Crash for Cash group.
We're taking out the top players that we believe are behind the organisation of the crashes that we are investigating at the moment.
I'm arresting you on suspicion of...
DS Marcus Allen's team have already arrested one of the main suspects.
Open the doors, I'm going to pry the door.
They also discovered 2 men unexpectedly living in the suspect's outbuilding.
Wait, open the door now.
So you live here? Yeah, OK. Well, what we're doing, we've got a warrant to search. Search it. OK. Have you got ID?
Marcus takes photographs of their identification and emails their identities to Police HQ to check their legitimacy.
We're happy with the identity of the 2 men in the outbuilding, and we've checked their immigration status, and we're satisfied with them at the moment.
Elsewhere, DS Kate Sibley has arrived at a second location as part of the investigation.
The second address we've come to, we've arrested one suspect who's just been taken off to custody. This address is currently being searched, and we're now going to go off to the yard, which the rear of it is rented to the suspects, which is where all the vehicles are kept and taken after the accidents.
But gaining access is going to be tough, so Kate calls in the Rapid Entry Boys.
Yeah, we're going to need method of entry because there's no way we can get through here. Well, we just arrived at the yard. The main gates are locked, padlock. We need to go to the rear of that, which again is locked. There's no sign of life, so we've got to get assistance from our support group, who will be able to gain access using bolt croppers.
The Rapid Entry Unit don't mess about, and a padlock and chain are no match for them. They're in. Kate and her team need to explore further.
We were expecting to find vehicles in relation to the crashes that we're investigating. Unfortunately, that's not the case. We found a new business that's obviously taken over the site in the form of skip hire. So unfortunately, we've drawn a bit of a blank here, but it had to be done and we had to cover all bases.
Meanwhile, Marcus and Patrick make a potentially important discovery in the case. While searching an upstairs room, Patrick finds something very interesting. It's a bin containing a number of insurance documents. Paperwork that is often helpful in cases like these.
He's quickly thrown away all the DVLA unregistered scrap letters for all the vehicles.
Is that all in the bin?
Yeah.
Yeah. What I'll do, I'll just seize the contents of the bin, I think.
The suspect finally emerges from the house and is led to the waiting police van.
The time's now 9:25. We've finished at the address. We've searched it thoroughly. We've arrested the suspect. We're now going to the custody at the police station to interview him.
With paperwork seized and the suspect arrested, it's been a good day for the IFED team. The investigation is still ongoing.